Good morning. Today we're going to be taking a look at what it takes to actually save data in a way that's not simply just human readable, but where you can save things for the computer, aka using the serializable structure, so we can save things to a computer for the computer to read rather than for us as human beings to read. And so we're going to take a look at what we need to do to make that happen. The first thing we're going to take a look at is inside our Poke Control class, because we're using our inheritance project in Pokemon, because we can also talk about how this works with inheritance as well. And so we're going to start to look at the Pokemon's controllers in import structure so we can see what's going to happen with that. And so in our import section we have right here, you can see we have at the top of the file, we have some imports we're going to be working with this. We have java.io file input stream and file output stream, java.io object input stream and object output stream, and finally java.io exception, so we can handle any errors we need to work with. And so that's what we're going to be starting off with that. We go down to our data members section. We look in the data members, you can see that we have a private string called data file, and this is where we're going to initialize the save file for that. As you can see right there in the constructor, where data file goes save.pokemon. That's clearly not an extension of something you'd be using for, say, for example, a text file, or something you'd be working with in any of the most general programs, because .pokemon is not an extension we normally work with. But you can create an extension of anything you want, because the extension is just how the computer is going to be saving it and accessing it. And if you don't have a file that's already associated with something, it's an easy way you can have it so it's specific to the program you're working on right here in this project. So it's a great way to do this. The next thing I want to direct your attention to is over here in the public void start method. The start method calls load data. Load data is how we're going to actually open up and read information from the hard drive and put it inside the application if it's available, and then proceed from there. The two methods we have to make this happen are the save data and load data methods. We'll start off with load data because that's the one that happens when we start the program, so we can see what we're going to be working with. And so when we load data, we're using the try with resources format, where we can actually have the things use the auto closable interface, so it automatically closes these streams as they're finished with being used. And so it's a great way to actually use that lovely support of Java 8+, so we can have things do some good stuff. Happy that it's there. And so the first thing we have to make is we have to make a file input stream. I'm calling that load stream because that's what it's doing. It's loading information to a stream. And we're going to pass that file input stream the parameter data file. That's aka where we're going to find the file we're working with right here for this. We then create an object input stream. I'm calling it, again, the crazy name of input. And we pass that load stream as its parameter. So we have the file input stream that gets passed into an object input stream, so we can actually load objects from a file via streams. I know, really easy. Okay. Once we've done that, we have a data member that's an array list of type Pokemon. That array list of Pokemon is called loaded Pokemon. It's a brand new array list because we want to read into a temporary variable before we actually try and transfer it into what we're working with. The next line we have is loaded Pokemon, is casting then as an array list of Pokemon, input.readObject. So the readObject method, what that's doing, it's going to grab that object from the input stream, read it, and then transfer it into an object. It's going to cast that object, using the cast, of course, right there, as an array list of Pokemon. And then, once it's cast that into it, we're going to assign Pokemon list to the data member that we're using to store all the state within this program. We're going to store the loaded Pokemon, then we just grab from that and store it inside the data member. So that way, in case it crashes at some point, it's not going to return the original default value. Now, when we're using the try with resources, we still have to have the catch statements that we can use to handle the potential errors. We have two catch statements we're going to work with on here. We have our catch statement of IO exception. The IO exception, what that's going to do is it's going to, hey, you have a problem with accessing that file. It's not there. So we pass a reference to the frame, so it'll load the window right over the application when we'd have that happen. Then we have the parameters, our message, aka what was the problem that we're actually hitting on this. We have a title for our window, file reader, because hey, it's a great description of what's happening. And then we're going to make it so that we can explicitly say, hey, this is a error because, right there, so we're going to use the JOps remains error message parameter, saying that, hey, this is an error message. And so it's a nice way to direct your visual attention that it's an error type. The other possible exception is a cast not found error. And a class not found exception, yeah, we don't know what that is. But, well, this is our project. This is a Pokemon project. It's an array list of Pokemon. Yeah, it's going to happen. That's not going to ever happen. But because the compiler doesn't know that, we have to make sure we provide a catch for that. And so we have that right there. I gave that an exclamation point just because we can. And hey, we're good to go. So that's the load data method. We also have our save data method, which basically works in the inverse operation, just like with regular loading and saving text files does. So we're going to have a file output stream called save stream. Let's pass it the same data file because it's loaded from the same spot. Easy makes it easy to run this. We have an object output stream called output, which passes that save stream as a parameter. And instead of reading an object, we're going to use the output.write object method. And what we're going to write is the Pokemon list. We're going to take that state, that internal state for our application, the status of all our Pokemon we're working with inside the inheritance project, and we're going to write that to the file. And so output.write object is basically the exact inverse of the original version. Again, we have to catch our exception. This one is only going to throw an IO exception. And so we have our app frame and our error message and a file save error. And again, we have that joptionpain.error message that we passed as a parameter. So let's go ahead and take a look now at the Pokemon class. This is how we're going to handle the work for this. I'm going to go over here to my model package, and inside model package, I'm going to go to Pokemon.java. And in Pokemon.java, the only thing we have to do for that is we have to implement the serializable interface. So if we want to use that write object method, all we have to do is use an object that has the serializable interface attached to it. And because the serializable interface has no methods, it's just an interface that says, hey, I know that you plan on doing something with this. And so everything we have inside here is already default stuff of Java, ints, strings, and arrays. So we're good to go. We have everything right there. So all that stuff is already something that's serializable by Java, so we're good to go. Nothing else has to happen. And then because the magic power of inheritance, all of our subclasses of Pokemon also implement serializable. So we've got everything good to go for that. So we have that information ready for us and available. Now inside our Pokemon panel, this is where we're going to have the work for this to happen. And so inside our save button, we'll have a save button. We add a listener for that. And we tell it to the controller object, which is the pokecontroller.java right here, to call the save data. So we can save the data directly to that. So let's go ahead and take a look at this and run the application and see how it goes. Now, as you can see, as the application loaded up, we have the error message of a file read error, save.pokemon, no such file directory. I haven't created the file yet, so I can't find it. And that's okay. So we're going to go ahead and press OK on this. And as you can see right here, we have our cute little Pokemon that we work with. We've got a Drifloon. I don't have a picture for that. It doesn't show up. I've got my cute Gengar. Oh, that's great stuff. And it's called Spooky Boy for his name. And so we're going to change this right now to be Super Spooky Boy because we want to make sure that happens. And this class implements the following types: Java.io.serializable because that type is automatically attached to that. I'm going to go ahead and update that Pokemon. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to go to my Electrode class. And there, it's like there, it has a health of 100. We'll change this over here to 230. And again, update that Pokemon as well. And now we use the Save Changes button. Now we should see that happen. And so when we're going to close this app and reopen it, we should see a different set of information. This 230 right here should be maintained for my Electrode. And if I go to my cute little Gengar, it should be named as Super Spooky Boy instead of just Spooky Boy when we open this up. So let's go ahead and take a look at it and see what happens. So I'm going to go ahead and quit this application. Go back to Eclipse and rerun it. And notice that the error message did not come up with that. When I open up my file, I go ahead and select my Electrode right here. It has that new value of 230. And I go to Gengar, and it's now a Super Spooky Boy. So it saved the information directly to that. So we have that information right there ready for us to see. Let's go ahead and take a look at what that means for us inside the actual project itself as well. So as we go over here to our project, I'm going to open up my Package Explorer and maximize this. And I'm going to go over here to my Pokemon project and refresh my view. And as you can see right here, I have my save.pokemon file. So that save.pokemon file is put right there inside the package. I can double click on that. And this is what we have. This is the information we have when we actually save information using the serializable format. This is not exactly useful for human beings to read. Let's maximize this font up a bit so we can just see what's going on. As you can see, we have four lines of stuff. There's no word wrap on this. We have a whole bunch of symbols that don't make a lot of sense. I have java.util.arraylist, size, poke.model.gengar, some really weird question mark symbols, poke.model.pokemon, can evolve, health, Pokemon number, Pokedex number, name, Java lang string, XPD, Super Spooky Boy. Oh, hey, there's that name we saved for it. And yeah, I don't know what's going on with all this stuff. But that information, although it's not human readable, it's something that we can actually use to read inside that because the serializable interface reads the object information and then loads it back up into the application. And so that's what we can do with this. So again, just a quick review of what we did for that. Go ahead and close the save.pokemon file because it's not useful for us as humans to make that happen. The way we make that work is we have the save data method and the load data methods. The save and load data methods serialize the information by something that uses the serializable interface. In this case, we have our array list of Pokemon, and the array list, of course, is serializable, and the Pokemon are serializable. We use the save data to write that object to the file, and then we use the load data to read that from the file. And I had that load data right there inside the start method, which gets called in the beginning in my runner. It calls the start method where we'll actually load that information up, and so it can read that data for us. And so that's how we can make it so we can automatically read and load the information across the system for us. And so that's how you can implement the ability to save data to the computer in a format that's not for humans to read, but rather for your computer to read. So take a look at that, do some cool stuff, and have some great time working on projects. Thanks again, and have a great day.